Well, Corey, when it's all said and done, you know, the big picture is that we did not have any deaths or injuries. Certainly when you consider how close the crane is to both buildings and the FDR. Residents expected and were told initially they might not get back into their apartments as early as midnight. We're still talking about 2 hours away from now, but I can report that I just ran back into the courtyard and where we saw dozens of residents within the last hour or so. They're now all back inside their apartments. They're hot and they've been frustrated all day. It's 8 o'clock Tuesday evening, and dozens of residents at the Riis Houses on Manhattan's Lower East Side are still sitting outside, unable to re-enter their apartments, unable to access their medication, unable for several hours at this point to seek refuge from the oppressive heat and humidity, all thanks to a crane boom collapse that happened just after 2:30 in the afternoon. So basically, you've been out of your apartment all day?
All day long.
You have medication in there you need to get?
Yes, I do. I have medication. I have to have it.
That's the tail end of the story. It began, again, with what workers on the ground describe as a boom extender that snapped just above one of the top joints. The crane, which sits in between two buildings, was lifting heavy steel I-beams when it snapped. The materials slammed into the building and scraped down its side, taking out air conditioners and at least one window along the way.
I heard the darn thing collapse. You could hear it, and all of a sudden,
and then I hear the workers yelling. They say, you should have been careful. Oh, you should have been more careful. You wasn't supposed to do that.
There were no injuries, and emergency responders evacuated parts of both buildings on either side of the crane. New York City Deputy Fire Chief Kevin Brennan.
It was construction material, I believe, a lot of steel for some work on the roof. It was trying to be hoisted to the roof level.
Fast forward several hours, and residents of 749 FDR Drive were still outside. But NYCHA tells us their staff was on scene within minutes and spent hours sending out robocalls and other outreach. Presumably, that includes alerting residents of two nearby cooling centers and escorting residents back up to their apartments to retrieve medications.
Where are we going to sleep tonight?
But that conflicts with what these residents told us. Some of them could not read English and were still unaware of NYCHA's outreach efforts. Has anyone from the city come to tell you there's some place that they can take you? Has the Red Cross come out here? Has anyone?
No, the department came to my house, knocking my door, and told me to come downstairs. I cannot stay in the building.
I'm talking about since you've been out here, sir.
No, here, no.
A spokesperson for NYCHA took great issue with the scene that we documented which is exactly what you saw in our report tonight. That spokesperson told us that they had dozens of people, again, outside catering to people, relaying the information. That very well have been the case, but where we were standing, we saw and heard from several residents who told us that they had been outside for hours, unable to get medication, hot, and had no clue when they were going to be let back into their apartments. The good news at the end of the night, they're back inside. That crane will be dealt with, and again, we had no injuries and no deaths.